Hey everybody, this is Curtis from PSN Stores. Today we are looking at Assassin's Creed Chronicles China. This is the first of a three-part series within the Assassin's Creed Chronicles kind of, I guess, trilogy. There are two other games that are going to be coming out at a later date. I don't know if we have a time frame for those, and those are going to focus around India and Russia, and those will also be two other assassins. So in this game in China, you were playing as Xiao Jun. I'm not familiar with like the other media outside of the games in relation to like Assassin's Creed, but it seems like correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but it seems like she's actually been introduced before. She knew Ezio, and that is kind of her tie to some of the other games and some of the past stuff that we've seen. And actually, this game directly references Ezio a number of times, and he has given her this box, and there's a mystery behind what the box is, what's inside of it, why it's so important, and it's not really quite answered in this game. I have a feeling that's going to be a mystery that kind of continues across the trilogy of these Chronicles games. So here we are. So this is the second memory sequence. It's kind of the one right after the tutorial. So we have the return with Gao Feng dead. Xiao Jun must now escape through the vast caves and cliff sides of her previous home before the Templars realize one of their masters is dead. So you see upgrades right there. It says expand Eagle Vision. Basically, this game is kind of intended to be played multiple times. You saw on the difficulty select screen. Once you beat it on normal, you unlock plus and plus hard. So actually playing through your kind of new game plus mode, you have new upgrades that are available to you. And the way that you get these upgrades is by getting a score. And so you're kind of scored on how well how well you do, like as far as stealth is concerned, different things like that. And you'll see as we continue. So right now we have, if we get 650, we can expand our Eagle Vision. If we were playing on New Game Plus mode, we can increase the throwing knife ammo that we got. And then you have your secondary objective as well. So this is a kind of your 2.5D, your side-scrolling game, but there's definitely some depth to it. You'll be going like in and out of different layers, and you might see a little bit of that in this stage. If you've played Assassin's Creed games before, the way this controls it's kind of similar. You're gonna hold R2 to kind of sprint. A lot of it's kind of like the way that you're kind of parkouring around things. It's not the same. It's not like identical controls, but it feels pretty similar to an Assassin's Creed game. And along those lines, you also are going to experience some of the like kind of stiffness of the way it feels, like especially like in combat. I'll try to show it off. There's some stuff there that might be kind of frustrating. So you have your Eagle Vision points, like you would in the main games. The only thing is like it doesn't do the weird like circular thing where it shows you the overview of the whole area. Because I guess there's not really a lot to show here. So here's your map, and you can actually you can zoom in, zoom out, and that would be zooming into different layers. You can pull up the legend, so it's going to show you your main objective, secondary objective, sync points, collectibles, things like that. So basically, you can pull up the map at any time, but when you hit these sync points, it's going to start showing you icons. So it's going to show you where the ammo caches are. It's going to show you where your collectibles are. Not that they're like super well hidden anyways. Like you're going to miss some probably, but for the most part, each level has like multiple pathways, but it's pretty easy, even without the map, to kind of find all that stuff. Okay, so if you played Mark of the Ninja, this game is extremely similar. Mark of the Ninja was another like side-scrolling stealth game. This game takes a lot of things from that game, and it's strikingly similar. one of the weird things here. So you actually see there's an icon above that guy's head. That is kind of your assassinate thing. So that whenever you see that, you know that you can kind of hit square or triangle and you can assassinate. Um, but one of the weird things is when two guards are having a conversation, you can like you can just stand there, and that guy on the left side is not gonna notice you ever. It's kind of weird, but that's kind of the one thing. When they're not having conversations, they have kind of the cone view. You also so each section of the game you'll get scored. You'll have like your gold, silver, bronze medal, and that's going to be scored by shadow, which is if you just do not get seen at all. Assassinate, which I think is like if you maybe you're noticed, or maybe if you're not seen but you're killing guards. And then there's like combat, which is full on like you've been noticed, you are engaging other guards in combat. So we'll just and much like there is plenty of different like hiding places that you can have, and it's going to give you the game's really good about having its UI display when you're visible, when you're not visible. It was very rare that there was ever a time, I don't think there was ever a time that I got spotted and I felt like it was kind of a cheap thing. Like I always knew if I got spotted, I was like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, because you can see their cone of view there. So I can take this guy down, but you notice on the bottom left, I have some different things I can use. So if I hit, this is just your D-pad here. If I hit up, I can highlight my whistle, and then what you do, you hold L1, and that is kind of the range that whistle has. So I can expand it. Now in this case, I don't want to use that, just because it's going to alert this guard, but he's going to come in the direction that the whistle is coming. Then down on the D-pad is a way that I can stun guards. I'm not going to do that with this guy. I'm just going to kind of sneak past him here. So you're holding L2 to kind of sneak around, and there are definitely some instances like where on the floor there's water, and so you have to, if you're not like kind of kneeling down, you'll actually make noises, and it will show you like a splash radius. And again, if you have ever played Mark of the Ninja, all of these things should be familiar. It is almost there are a number of different things that they have changed about it, but for the most part it plays almost identical to that game. You also notice as we go through this level that the checkpoints are pretty often, so if you do die, and there are some places later on that can get a little frustrating, it's pretty rare that you're ever going to have to start from like really far back. The sections in which you're getting ranked by your performance, like that happens pretty often. Like they're like you see there, I've already got 3 ranks here, and each rank is kind of that's your checkpoint. So another thing that you're noticing here, this game is okay. So I have some when I first saw this game when it was announced, I was kind of bummed out because I didn't think it looked that great, like visually. Now that I've had time to play it, I think it looks really good. Like it's very heavily stylized, obviously. I think your player character and then the enemy characters as well, they're not so much, but like the environment and everything around you, I think it looks really nice. And there are some really cool areas that you get to later in the game. Also, you're noticing here, this is kind of a way to very quickly switch between different forms of cover. Oh, crap it, man. So you notice there, one of the I kind of messed up there. That guard, whenever they go to turn around, it'll give you an icon. It will give you like a warning icon that they're about to turn, and that's the eyeball there. If I hit the right analog stick in, here's your kind of vision here. One of the cool things it does So, okay, it shows the guards, it shows the vision cones, but it actually shows their pathway that they walk. And so that's just like another thing that you have at your disposal to kind of figure out, you know, where a guard's going to be at any given time. And again, I think the UI is pretty well done for the most part as far as like those kind of things are concerned. It does some of these things that they give you. They do tend to make the game not that difficult. It's not until like the last couple stages that I found there was a couple sections that were kind of frustrating. And that was mostly due to just the amount of guards that there were, and it was kind of hard to really, you know, get by them without even being noticed at all. So, and some of that difficulty also comes in, and I'll try to show it at some point in this stage. Um, when you engage in combat, if you are like going up against more than two people at a time, it can be really difficult to survive. So I have 2 bars of health right here. That means I can take 2 hits. The combat system is pretty similar. There's a few differences. But it's set up in such a way that it's easy to die very, very, very quick. So. Alright, so we've just unlocked the throwing knives, which is kind of your third of these like distractions that you can use. Throwing knives you can also use to cut down rope, and that'll like activate bridges or do any number of things. There's some kind of light puzzle solving, but and as you would maybe expect from any Assassin's Creed game, there is like it's kind of like database files that you can access, and some of them are just kind of explaining your different equipment that you have. Some of the just some tutorial stuff in there, but you do find these chests throughout each level that have scrolls in them. They kind of detail a lot of the backstory for your main character Xiao Jun. Which is pretty interesting. It actually kind of covers from her childhood leading up to probably not long before the game. And I think it might even cover parts of the game as well. So that is kind of their way of kind of filling you in on what's going on with her. Alright, so here's a kind of a good example here. So I have 2 of these. I can actually, within the radio, your circle here, it's going to show you who's going to get affected by it. So I hit both of them, and I'm quick enough. Alright. Well, here's a good way to show combat. So, to counter, I have to hold the left analog stick in the direction of the enemy, and then hit circle. When I counter, I can also hit X to flip over them. I don't really know how to change direction with her. Anyways, so that happens. I have my light attack, and then you also have heavy attacks. Now you notice now that he has the skull above his head, now I can kind of go in for the kill. But yeah, I mean that's essentially your combat system. There's a little bit more that you can do later on. There's some. And again, you know, 2 hits and you're dead. But luckily, again, the checkpoints are numerous. So that is kind of an example of how fast you can die. Another thing you can do. I don't know if the knife will. No, okay. I guess perhaps in New Game Plus, the fourth thing that you get is a way to kind of lure guards over to a specific area. So I could potentially lure these two under those red boxes there, and or that's just gonna, that's gonna do the same thing. But and in other situations, you can actually lure them under and then drop the box on them. Alright, so let's actually kill this guy. And later on, like, you'll be able to start countering them and doing other things. So that's kind of your basics of the combat system. There's a few different things that are introduced. Essentially what they do is you might come across a new enemy. Maybe that enemy has a shield that you can break. Maybe they have a shield that you can't break. Different things like that. And that is kind of how they introduce different elements of the combat system. It's going to feel pretty familiar to Assassin's Creed combat. But there are a couple differences. I actually kind of like having to hold the left analog stick in the direction of the enemy instead of just like pressing a button to counter. It's a tiny thing, but it kind of feels like it, because it's more than just hitting a button. Like, it feels a little bit more involved, and I think it works kind of well. But at the same time, like, if I were to go up against these two guys, like, if there's more than two people, it can be rough because some enemies have ranged, like, darts that they'll throw at you or things like that, and that can be very, very dangerous. So you don't want to find yourself in situations like that. Kind of giving up any desire to try to be stealthy here. I'm just gonna go, let's see, we're approaching 20 minutes, so we'll just kind of start wrapping up soon, I think. See how much of this level we got. Yeah, we got a little bit more. The levels, for the most part, I think there's 12 stages in the game. They tended to take me around 20 minutes, some a bit longer. And then some a little bit shorter. It was kind of averaging around 20 minutes a level. But so you have your kind of standard levels like these. There also there's a couple of stages where you might find yourself in a place that is burning down or is very dangerous, so you have to actually get there very quickly. And so it's set up in a way that you're going to be like constantly running, and there will be guards that you can kind of slide under, and as you're sliding under them, you can attack them from below, and assassinate them in that way. And it's very, like, it feels different, from a much more, like, slow and methodical pace for the standard levels, and it's a pretty nice kind of, like, change of pace for the game. Again, there's like 2 or 3 of them, but actually I like those levels quite a bit, and again, just because it offered something different. One of the things with this, like, I went in with extremely low expectations for this game. Okay, so with ranged characters, it'll actually show you a line, and you can hit circle to kind of dodge that. Sometimes you can just kind of mash circle. But yeah, I went in with pretty low expectations, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this. I really liked was it Mark of the Ninja, sorry. I really like Mark of the Ninja a lot, and even though you could probably just be like, well, this is that game, essentially, what with an AC, Assassin's Creed skin. That's kind of true, yeah, but, But hey, you know, it's Mark of the Ninja was a pretty great game. And again, this, you know, this does add, it's not like a straight copy of it. This does add some new elements to it. Not as much, but so I've actually already got that chest, but let's see. Man, yeah. More often than not, you just don't want to get seen, if you can help it. I mean, obviously, but like, especially like the range guys, I always kind of have trouble with. But I'm also used to having like a lot more health, so that's kind of it's kind of hurting me here. So here's kind of your, you know, going in and out of different planes. It's used pretty well. But I've also, like, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've played a lot of, like, 2D, you know, side-scrolling platformers that has this element in it. It was like, oh, you can see, like, the back, you can see a plane back in the background, and you can get there. Some games do it pretty well, some games not so much. But I feel like I've seen it so much now that it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of going through the motions. And I feel like that can be the case sometimes in this game. I think one of the issues, and maybe it's a weird one. I don't know if it makes sense. Uh, because a lot of the levels are, like, you know, over 20 minutes long. They can drag a bit. You know, they can. Sometimes there's not enough to kind of break up the pacing. Besides those, like, really quick levels, like the escape levels or whatever. So sometimes these can kind of drag, especially like around the middle of the game. Like, there was a point where I just kind of got bored, and I just had to go and do something else. I like the game; it's good, but it can get kind of just kind of dull sometimes. All right, so here is our noise dart, so I can kind of make a noise over here. Oh, hold on. Make a noise over there. That guard's gonna get distracted. I can hide in the hay bale, like any other Assassin's Creed game. And eventually, you know, once he's done investigating, he'll go back to his typical, like, area, and then I can take him out. And again, in most hiding places, there, with a few exceptions, most of the hiding places, if you assassinate a guy while in hiding, you're gonna go ahead and drag him in, because as you saw earlier, there very much is an element of, like, if another guard finds a dead body, they're immediately going to go on alert and be like, well, hold on, someone's here, you know. And again, you know, when you're moving in bushes, if you're moving, you can actually kind of be seen because the guards are going to see the bushes moving. But if you stop, you'll get a white outline, which kind of signifies that you are invisible. One thing about the times in which when you are engaging in combat, don't expect to like, if you get seen and, like, an enemy starts, you know, trying to fight you, you need to just go ahead and fight. I know, like, sometimes I would play the kind of the actual, like, the mainline Assassin's Creed games, and sometimes I try to, like, run off. Typically that doesn't work, again, just because of there's a it's almost like a stiffness to the combat and the way the game controls, that if you try to run, like, they're gonna kill you. Like, it's not really worth it. But yeah, we should be getting pretty close to the end of the level here. This game is probably gonna be around 6 hours or so to beat, and it's very much designed in a way that, um, it gives you incentive to go back and play multiple times, at least twice. Just because there are certain upgrades you have to go through New Game Plus to get. So that's pretty cool. Now that I've played it, I do think the game looks pretty good. I like the stylized artwork. I was kind of like when it was announced, I was kind of wishing that I could, or that it was being made with like the Ubi art engine, and that like Child of Light or Valiant Hearts, that it was more stylized than it is. I do still kind of wish that. Like I see like the cutscenes before each level, and I was like, man, I kind of wish the game looks like that. But even still, I think it looks pretty good. And again, there are some later areas in the game that look really nice. And while this isn't entirely original as far as like the gameplay is concerned, again, if you play Mark of the Ninja, it's a lot like that. If you haven't played Mark of the Ninja, you should probably check it out. It's really good. But it's gonna be very familiar. There are some new things, kind of like specific to things you would expect from Assassin's Creed, that you're gonna find here, that are a little bit different. But it kind of sticks to a very similar kind of design standpoint that Mark of the Ninja did as well. And that's not always a bad thing, it's, if you're gonna make a game similar to another one, you should probably pick good games, and Mark of the Ninja is a good one. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really particularly mind it that much, but I do think some people are probably gonna. I could see people complaining about this game feeling very, very similar to that one in almost every way. Yeah, so we have these bird cages that you have to sneak past so you don't disturb the bird. Weirdly enough, like, these are not used very often. But here they are, You'll also notice as you play through, the game kind of uses red to signal areas that you can climb, things you can interact with. Without it, it would probably be pretty difficult to see certain areas that you can climb. So that's pretty good. Again, the UI, I think the UI is pretty well done here. Really for me, like, I think it's a good game. I think probably my biggest issue is that it doesn't, other than like levels can kind of drag for a bit, there's not really very much as far as like a story. Like there is a story here, but it's not very interesting. There's no Animus anything. There's other than like your menu screens and things like this. There's nothing related to the Animus other than your database, which you can kind of look through. But it is all very much like this location, this time period. And it's just kind of your like typical like, okay, here you're an assassin. There's like 4 of these guys that we need to take out, so let's do that. And there's like maybe like a twist kind of in there, but nothing too crazy. So I do, and again, like, other than the like the little text documents that you can find that expand on Xiao Jun's character, like, there's not really a whole lot there for her. And it's not so much a complaint to level against the game, but it's, as someone who is, God, I would love for them to take this specific time period, this location, and make a full-fledged game out of it. I am like kind of bummed out that like we finally get China, we finally get this, and we get like, and Vita the Liberation game had your female assassin, but like kind of bummed out it was kind of like, oh, here's just this weird side 2D game. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this is a sign that we might actually get the China location soon. As a full-fledged game, that would be great. that would actually, that would be something that would maybe get me back into those games. Kind of the only reason I really bought this is because I knew it would at least be kind of different. And here we are, and it is. Like, $10 is pretty cheap. Weird, like, we kind of got to a point where $10 games seem kind of rare, in a way. 15's kind of the norm, and honestly, this for $10, it's to get through the main story, you're looking at probably around 6 hours. And, there's some reasons to play through again. And it's like, it's not bad. Which was kind of surprising to me, so. I don't know. I mean, hopefully he does pretty well, and maybe that'll be enough to to convince Ubisoft that we need a full-fledged China game. One can hope. Alright, so that's gonna do it for Assassin's Creed Chronicles China. The game is available now. Again, it's for $10. So the kind of weird thing. So if you bought the season pass for Assassin's Creed Unity, and then of course, all the stuff that happened around that game, it being kind of broken, and all of that weird stuff happened. This game was actually included in the season pass. So I think if you bought that season pass, you get this for free. Otherwise, it's $10. I'm assuming each of the 3 games in this kind of Chronicle series is going to be 10 each. But don't think that because it's like one part of 3 that it's like not a whole game. This is a full-on game. It has a beginning and end. It is just focused around Xiaojun and her character specifically. And then there is towards the end, again without spoiling anything, there are some things that happen in the story that I can imagine directly tie into what's going to come next for the next 2 entries in this kind of trilogy here. So at the end of each mission, you have your kind of screen here. So you have your Shadow, Assassin, and Brawler. Those are kind of the 3 things that you're ranked on. So again, Shadow is if you don't get seen. Assassin, I think, is kind of similar, but maybe you're killing enemies. And then Brawler is for the sections that you're just engaging in combat. You're scored on that. You got your level score, and then that determines the upgrades that you get. And then you have also your collectibles on the side. So that is gonna do it. Thank you for watching, and we'll have a review up. Review up should actually be up probably around the time you see this video. Well, good. Okay. That's that's gonna do it. God. For what it's worth, that never happened to me. But well, that's good. The review should be up now. If not, it should be up very soon. But that's all I got. So I guess I'll see you all later.